Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Natquascape. If you're new to the channel, then please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any content to do with unboxing and reviews of products related to aquascaping and the planted aquarium. Also in this channel, expect to see step-by-step tutorials and guidance on how to set up and maintain low-tech, high-tech and medium tech planted aquarium. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how I got into fish keeping and subsequently how I got into aquascaping. My mom and my dad took me to the fun fair. And back then, I don't think it's probably legal right now, but back then they would have goldfish in bags. If you want a prize, you take the goldfish home in a bag. Probably that doesn't happen now, maybe because of animal welfare, etc., which I can completely understand. So we took this goldfish home and we put it in a 1-foot clear seal tank, and they never survived. Tap water, in it goes, no dechlorinator, nothing. And yeah, needless to say, they didn't survive. We didn't know what we were doing, and we didn't seek any advice at the time. So we continued this, and then, you know, it came to a point where obviously we're doing something wrong. What's the matter? Well, one, we're not dechlorinating the water. Two, we had no filtration. So complete rookies back then. So yeah, once we got a filter in, and there's a cheap under gravel filter, you know, with an air stone that goes through the tube, etc. But actually, those kind of filtration systems are still found in a lot of aquatic stores, and they do a good job as well. So yeah, needless to say, when we got the next goldfish from the fair, it survived because it had filtration. And then by that point, we were keeping black moors and all sorts of different kind of fancy goldfish, totally overstocking the 1-foot aquarium. Now, this was way back when I must have been about 6-7 years old. So, you know, that is my first memory of keeping fish, getting the fish from the fun fair. And in fact, one of our goldfish that we had, survived in that 1-foot tank for like 10 years and just did great. So fast forwarding to 1994, my dad and his cousin and I, and again, I was really young. Yeah, we got these two huge 4-foot aquariums. So we're going from a 1-foot cold water tank to 2 4-foot aquariums, in the mind of keeping tropical aquarium fish. So these were second hand. There's these big clear seal tanks. I mean, they were 48 inches by 15 inches deep by 18 inches tall. And, you know, normally with your 4-foot aquariums with that brand, the brand was Clear Seal. It's kind of 48 inches by 1 foot by 1 foot. So, yeah, 48 by 12 by 12. So yeah, big tanks, and 2 of them on this metal stand. So in 1994, we got the tanks. And in 1995, we set up the tanks. So the setup of the tanks were under gravel filtration system, just kind of coarse gravel, and power heads on each of the tubes that go up. And the power heads, you know, were good because they really did oxygenate the water as well. So I think that's why some of the fish did well. Obviously, in the beginning, some of the fish didn't do too well. So when setting up the 2 4-foot aquariums, this is when I started learning about cycling the tanks. So me and my father, you know, we were cycling these tanks. And as a kid, I was very impatient. I want the fish. Let's get the fish. Let's get the fish. So I think we might have just cycled for about 9 or 10 days. Obviously tested the water, nitrites were down, etc. So we went out and got the fish. Now, I was a bit of a nerd, probably still am, It's always good to be a bit of a nerd, to be honest, in my opinion. And I just want to show you some pages that I have of a journal that I kept when I had these two 4-foot tanks. So you can see, you know, it's in 1995. I've introduced the water, and you know, we've got these fish. I'm writing down what fish we got, but I'm also writing down what fish we have lost as well. Kind of making a document of what water changes I'm doing and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't really document things for that long, to be honest, maybe for about half a year or something. But yeah, it was 1995, and actually on this page you can see that on Christmas Eve we went and got fish. So yeah, me and my dad would go to the aquatic shop, fish store, and there were 3 that we really liked to go to. And yeah, it was great. You know, maybe on a Saturday or Sunday we used to go to these stores, get some fish, come back, let them settle in, have dinner and stuff, and just kind of hang out, chill out and stuff like that. So yeah, it was good. And we're all kind of, as a family, just, you know, yeah, we watched TV, but we ended up just sitting there, watching the fish, you know, and stuff. So that was great. And we had these 2 4-foot tanks. So yeah, obviously we're going to see that as the center kind of focus of the room. As, you know, we start becoming a bit better at keeping the fish and knowing what we're doing with our water parameters, and naturally as the gravel just kind of established beneficial bacteria, the fish started breeding. Now, these were live bearers, guppies, swordtails, mollies. They do tend to breed quite prolifically anyway. But we were really stoked that, man, we are breeding fish. Our fish are breeding. Our tanks must be spot on for them to want to breed. Now, you know, when fish keeping, we had all sorts of problems along the way. We had clown louches jumping out the tank, even though we'd had a hood. We had problems where all of our fish were gasping when it was, you know, a heat wave, etc., etc. We encountered so many problems. I mean, I remember once we were supposed to go to my aunt's house, and we bought shrimp. And I don't know what shrimp we bought. I can't even remember back then. But one of the shrimp grabbed a black widow tetra and was running around the tank with this black widow tetra. And me and my dad, you know, we just didn't have the heart to leave as is and just go and visit my aunt, who was quite far away. And we stripped down the tank just to catch these shrimp, put them in a floating breeding box, put everything back in the tank, went to my aunt's for dinner. Needless to say, we were late, got in a bit of trouble, but yeah, that's how dedicated to the fish we were at that time. As a few years went on, you know, the tank became more mature. We didn't keep live plants. We had like plastic plants and some rocks and some decor. And I'm going to show you some pictures actually of the tanks that I had. I found some pictures not too long ago. And eventually we got discus. And these discus did really well. After about 2.5 years of keeping discus, probably about 2, just under 2 maybe, the discus started breeding. So we bought them small. And yeah, they were growing really well. We used to feed them bloodworm, live food. Really wanted to take care of our discus and our fish at that point. It's all about the fish. Nothing about aquascaping. Yeah, we chucked in some decor, what might look nice, but really trying to provide hiding spots, etc., etc., for the fish, and plants, just a bit of foliage just so that they can hide, etc., etc. And the discus started breeding. So I'm going to check out photos of these discus. I've got them to hand just here, and I'm just going to overlay them on the screen, hopefully for you guys, so you can check them out. So yeah, in this tank you can see one of the fish in a smaller tank, in a kind of like a grow out tank with the juveniles. Here is a picture of one of the tanks with the 2 discus, and here is a picture of the bottom tank of the two that we had. We tried to keep some big fish in there, so you can see a yellow severum. I can see a Colombian shark. So we started to keep brackish water fish as well, introducing a bit of salt into the water, and you know, they were great. My dad really liked gouramis as well, so we had quite a few gouramis and some rainbow fish. Okay, so what else? Yes, more pictures of the pair of the discus with the juveniles. Once the juveniles were big enough, we did introduce them back into the main tank, etc., etc. We actually gave a load to my uncle, and yeah, and we gave some to a local aquatic shop who we were quite good friends with. So in this picture, I mean, you can see we've got some I think they call it iridescent sharks. One of my uncles came to visit and he's like, "Oh my god, you got hammerhead sharks." It's just like, nah, they're not hammerheads, mate. But yeah, iridescent sharks get huge. We had no idea at the time. We bought them like this, they got like that. We kept them with neon tetras. They did not eat the neons. In fact, they were so skittish and scared of some of the neons. And eventually, you know, they were getting big and we had to take them back to the aquatic store. So kind of like a learning curve, you know. Think about what fish you're going to get, know how big they're going to get, etc., etc. You think some of the aquatic stores would tell you, and if we knew at the time, we just wouldn't have got them. But we had a 4-foot tank. Yeah, that's plenty of room. Iridescent sharks get huge. I mean, this is small. They get, oh, I don't know how big they get. I've seen some huge specimens in, you know, public aquariums. So as well as the discus, we even got angelfish to breed. I don't know how many pictures of that, but yeah, they were breeding really well as well in the tanks. So the tanks were mature, and upon reflection, I think the discus were breeding because our water was slightly harder, and it just probably had the right GH and KH as well for the and pH for the discus to breed. Again, we didn't have any live plants, and if you think about a discus and angelfish biotope, if you see where they actually come from, you don't see much plants anyway in those areas of where discus and angelfish come from. You know, it's mainly twigs and rocks and soil. Is that kind of style of biotope, even tannings as well. So in a natural environment for discus, there's a lot of tannings and stuff as well. We didn't have tannings. We had a bit of bogwood that might have lowered the pH. But yeah, they bred and they were breeding like mad. So 2005, I left home. And when I used to come back home, I noticed that, you know, the tanks weren't doing so well. And eventually, I mean, in the bottom tank, I think we had a big plec. And in the top tank, I think we had the iridescent sharks and maybe some small fish. That was it, really. And so decided, let's give the fish, whatever we have, to the fish store who are really happy to take them. And time to take down the tanks. So in 2006 is when I left. 2005 is when I left home. 2006 is when we took down the tanks. I actually think my dad gave them for free as payment for someone doing work in the house. So yeah, this chap might have done some plastering or something like that and got 2 massive 4-foot tanks with all the gravel, all the filtration. My dad even made a junction box where you can control the top pumps and the top lights and the bottom pumps and the bottom lights. Yeah. So fish keeping for me stopped in 2005, and then I didn't really get a tank because I moved up to Scotland by that time to do my PhD. And then subsequently I moved to the southwest to continue my PhD and my postdoctoral research as well. But, you know, yeah, during my PhD in 2009, I did decide to get a fish tank. And I got a 60 centimeter Tetra Tech 60. It's called the Tetra Tech 60. Tank made by Tetra. So I kept this Tetra Tech tank, and I just had gravel and this kind of internal filter that comes with the tank, which was really rubbish, to be honest. And I just kept community fish, you know, guppies, dwarf rainbows. I did put some clown louches in, but I was an idiot, you know. clown lanterns and guppies. What was I thinking? You know, even though the clown lanterns were small, kept some rummy noses and stuff. And again, it's all about the fish. But I was thinking about a little bit more about the decoration, how the tank looked. And this is when I started to think about, oh, what can I do to make the tank look good and stuff like that. Went on to Google or YouTube and put in like tank decoration, and thought about keeping live plants. So I put plants for tanks or something like that, or aquarium plants. This is in 2009 or 2010. What came up? Aquascapes. I saw these images of planted aquariums and it blew my mind. I couldn't believe that you could achieve these type of things. I was like, is this real? Are these real plants? Yeah, of course they are. And you grow them, and it's all about the way the tank looks, and it's all about creating a nature aquarium, and it's all about the look of that tank and having a piece of nature in your home and creating the best environment for your aquatic species or your livestock. And a name popped up, Takashi Amano. I was gripped. I was really gripped. Okay, guys, so that's the end of part 1. In part 2, I'll be talking more about the actual aquascapes that I kept before starting this YouTube channel. So if you want to see the rest of the content, then please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you know when I get that video out. See you in the next video. Ta-ra.